Tonight's lesson is lesson 78, which is exponents and square roots. And remember I told you guys today in class that this is something we touched on a little bit in 4th grade, but we really go into in 5th grade. And so after this video, if you know that this is something that you might need some extra practice with, we will practice this a ton in class. Okay, so to show repeated multiplication, we use an exponent. So, for example, if you look right here, we have 5 times 5 times 5. And so we learned this last year. This is called a power. 5 is our base, and this exponent is telling us how many times it is being multiplied. So 5 times 5 times 5. So 5, we would say, to the third power, or cubed, is equal to 125. Because 5 times 5 is 25. Times 5 is 125. Now you can say it a couple different ways. Like if I were to write something like this, 3 to the second power would be 3 squared. That kind of has a name. Or 3 to the third power, that would be 3 cubed. But once you get past cubed or to the third power, you would see something like 3 to the fourth, and that would be said 3 to the fourth power, or, for example, 3 to the fifth power. So when we see a base number with an exponent, we are always talking about, it is called a power. So try to do the next one. It says write 3 to the third power, or 3 cubed, as a whole number. So I'm going to do this one with you first. What it's saying is we have 3, and it is being multiplied by itself 3 times. So this would look like 3 times 3 times 3. This is our base number, the number we're using, and my exponent tells us how many times it's being multiplied. So 3 times 3, this is 9, times 3 again, and that would equal 27. Alright, the next problem is kind of tricky. Alright, if 2n equals 6, then what does n squared, or n to the second power, equal? Now this problem is going to have 2 steps. First you need to find out what is n, and then we need to put n to the second power, or square it. So try to find what n equals. Remember, when we have a number that is right next to a letter, we know that it is actually being multiplied. So we can even kind of draw like a little multiplication sign in there. So 2 times n equals 6. What would n equal? Well, 2 times what number equals 6? 2 times 3, so n equals 3. Now I have to go to my second part of my problem. N to the second power, or n squared. So n equals 3. So I would say 3 squared, or 3 to the second power. What does that equal? 3 times 3, well, that would equal 9. Alright, now the next part. Write each power, remember they're called powers, as a whole number. So I have 10 to the first power, so I have 10 one time. That would equal 10. 10 squared equals 10 times 10, which equals 100. 10 to the third power, 10 times 10 times 10, which equals 1,000. And then the last one, 10 to the fourth power, which tells me I need to multiply it 4 times, be 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, which is a 1 with 4 zeros, or 10,000. If you notice, this is something that I always remembered. When you have a 10 and it's to a power, that power always is how many zeros are in the answer. If you notice, this is 10 to the third power, or 10 cubed, and our answer has 1, 2, 3, 3 zeros. 10 to the fourth, we're multiplying it 4 times. Your answer has 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 zeros. That's just kind of a trick. Oh, only when you're dealing with tens though. Okay, the next section, I kind of drew a line here. We're going to be talking about square roots. And I know we kind of touched on this last year, but it's definitely not fresh in our mind, so we're going to go over it a little bit. Okay, if we know the area of a square, then we can find the length of each side. And if we know we're talking about a square, we know that the length is always going to be the same as the width. That makes it a square. If one length is longer, then that would be a rectangle. So we're talking about a square that has the same length and the same width, always 100%. That makes it a square, or a perfect square. So if you look here, the area, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, the area of this square is a 9. So I put my 9, and this kind of looks like a division symbol. This right here means find the square root. The square root of 9. So what it's asking you is to find what is one length of a perfect square. And so an easy way to think of it is what number times the same number gives me 9, because a square always has the same length and width. So here, 3 times 3 equals 9. So the square root of 9 is 3. And this I just put up here, that is what the square root of a number. Whenever you see a number in a sign like this, it's wanting to know what is the square root of it. And the square root is basically what is a number times itself that equals the number in the square root sign. And that's telling you, that number, or your answer is telling you what a length of that perfect square is going to be. Now, when we're doing square roots now, we are always talking about a perfect square, meaning the length is always the same as the width. So, here, I've given you 2 examples. Try these by yourself. What number times itself gives you 100? Same with 36. What number times itself gives you 36? Alright, and this is equal to 10, because 10 times 10 equals 100. Meaning, if this was right here, if this was 10, and this was 10, my area would be 100. So my answer is 10. Now for 36, this would equal 6. Why? Because 6 times 6 equals 36. And same with this. If this was 6 and this was 6, a perfect square, the area would be 36. All right, go ahead and try this problem. So it has a square root, but underneath it says 9 plus 16. Then we have, our compare circle. Then the square root of 9 plus the square root of 16. So here you need to add these numbers first, then find the square root first, find the square root first, and then add them together. Go ahead and try it yourself, see if you can get it. Okay, so I'm going to do this first. 9 plus 16 is 25. The square root of 9, what number times what number gives you 9? That's exactly the same. That would be 3 plus what number times itself, the same number, equals 16, which is 4. 4 plus 3 is going to give you 7. The square root of 25, what number times what number, the same number, is going to give you 25? 5. So I'm going to say that 7 is greater than 5. All right, and for your lesson practice down here, okay, I want to know what is 3 to the 4th power, 2 to the 5th power, 11 to the 2nd power, or squared. I want to know here the square root of 4, the square root of 16, and the square root of 49.